Hey guys and gals, Never here from Drakewing Game, and Sylving on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you on a Let's Play episode of Sylving Reforged. Anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Alarm chaining, we're up, and let's go. Forgive him. Lord Mikkel is nothing if not full of lust for knowledge. He's not a bad person, but his lordship's curiosity can get the better of him. Now that that's taken care of, I have to go fetch something. I'll be back soon. Wait, could I have something to eat? I'm really hungry. Right, you must be starved, and there isn't really anything to eat or cook in here. Alright, I know someone who's always with a ready meal. How do you feel about stew? It's a hearty meat and vegetable soup, and the one he makes it is the best. Stew sounds great. Good, I'll be back soon. With a nod, Agnarr steps out of the door. I found the fox, or, well, he found me, got my phone back, and if what he says about the cloak is true, I'll be back home tonight. Looking around, I realize very quickly that I have nothing to pass the time with. I probably should get myself cleaned up. It's been days, and I've neither changed clothes nor washed myself. I fetched the water bowl, cloth, and soap from the other room and placed them on the dinner table. Then I proceed to dress down. Soaking the cloth in the soapy water, I start with an arm first, test how to clean myself with all this fur. This is gonna go back to normal, right? I'll just step through on my side and shut it all off. Well, why wouldn't it work both ways? And even if I pass out again, I'll have my phone with me, and can just call for help when I come to. I put the cloth under my arm and start scrubbing it, really digging through the thick fur. Man, soapy fur feels really weird, but I do my best to scrub myself down. I'm determined to rid myself of 2 days' worth of dirt and stink. Rinsing out fur is harder than I thought it would be. Next, I use the clean half of the cloth to dry myself with. I give up halfway, the makeshift towel having given its all. Cleaning was one thing, but drying is even harder. Moist fur is rather uncomfortable, but at least it don't stink like before. Finally, feeling refreshed, I put my clothes back on. They still smell, but it's not like I have anything else to wear. The claws rip through my t-shirt as I pull it down, leaving little holes around my chest. Great, just what I needed. Letting out a weak grunt, I try to stay positive and move on. I lean in close to the window and peer through the shutters, wondering when the big wolf's going to return. The openings are so narrow and the glass uneven that everyone outside looks more like vague blobs than anything else. Just then, Agnarr comes back in, holding a cloth-covered pot with one hand and a big burlap sack draped over his other arm. Oh, hi! Welcome back! What are you doing? Just trying to spot you on your way back. Not much else to do while waiting. You made it a lot easier by coming in, though. Agnarr shows a subtle smirk, putting the pot onto the table and sack on the floor. He digs through the cabinets underneath the window, retrieving bowls and spoons before setting the table. I pull up a chair and sit down. Agnarr readies a ladle before pulling the cloth off the pot. The smell of meat and vegetables hits my nose, and my mouth immediately begins to water. I hope that is to your liking. He finished making this just before I arrived. It's still hot. If it tastes half as good as it smells, then I already know I'm going to want seconds. Agnarr ladles out a large portion for me. The stew looks even more enticing as he sets it in front of me. He then takes a seat on the bench across from me, looking content. The stew is just how I expected, with meat and veggies floating in thick brown broth. The only surprise is little chunks of blue mushroom. I get a spoonful with each of the different kinds of chunks in it, carefully balancing it as I find my mouth. When the taste hits my tongue, I'm impressed by the zesty flavor. I can taste meat and something like garlic, and the rich broth is enhanced by the perfect touch of salt. The meal is savory, and I can already feel it warming my bones. I can even taste something close to pepper in the seasonings, but it's mellower than I'm used to. Even the odd blue mushrooms are quite nice, having an earthy sweetness to them. Taking another spoonful, I can feel myself returning to life thanks to the incredible flavor. I don't think I've ever had stew this good before. I'm so hungry that anything would taste great at this point, but the stew is undoubtedly amazing. By the third bite, though, I can feel something trickling down my chin. The broth drips to the table. I was so entranced by the taste I didn't notice it's been leaking out the sides of my mouth. I try to wipe it off with my hands, but the fur just ends up soaking it in and smearing it all around. I can feel my face turning red with embarrassment. First the tail and the claws, now the fur and muzzle. This body keeps throwing me curveballs. I can't even eat without looking like a toddler. Here's this. He hands me the rag that was used to cover the pot. I dry off my hands and chin first before cleaning the table with it. Don't worry about the mess. It can happen at times. I finish cleaning off the table and look back up at him, still feeling pretty self-conscious. I take it you like the dish, given your enthusiasm. Yeah, it's really good. You were right, Agnarr. I've never had stew as good as this before. Heh, I told you. It's the best in the land. I hear a loud growling sound come from Agnarr. At first I thought it was his voice making that sound, but it came from his stomach. That's when I realized that his bowl is completely empty. Aren't you gonna have some? I'll eat when you've had your fill. Don't worry about me. I feel bad that I didn't wait for him. I'm glad to finally get some real food in me, but not if I'm the only one eating. It'd be nice to eat the stew with you, rather than taking turns. Besides, there's no way I can eat all this by myself. I'd really prefer it if you had some yourself. I told you, I'll wait. The wolf grimaces, clearly embarrassed as the groaning protest comes back even stronger. No matter what he was about to say, he can't argue with his own body. I look at him with a grin, seeing how troubled he looks, and point to my wooden spoon at his belly. You better listen to us and eat before it gets any louder. Thank you for your kindness. Agnarr ladles a generous portion into his own bowl and dives in. I hold my bowl close to my mouth and fish out the remaining chunks to eat. The broth is delicious, but I don't want a repeat of it dripping out of my mouth. Usually I wouldn't be this reserved, but I'm not used to eating with this alien face yet. Still, I managed to not spill any more of the stew, so that's a win. Now all that's left is to enjoy the meal. Thank you for letting me eat with you. It's an honor to share a meal with a higher being like yourself. Thank you, now. I cover my mouth, nearly spitting out my stew. I swallow hard and give a small cough to keep myself from laughing. Higher being? Me? You're a Sylving, said to be among the most powerful and mysterious of beings, who helped our kind when we needed it most centuries ago. Lord Mikkel has told me about the many magical Sylving tools he's seen in your world during his expeditions, like the metal carriages that travel at great speed along your black roads, or the black mirrors your kind carry around. He told me you touch and talk through them, and that they convey special meanings through strange sounds. Those are cars and phones. They're pretty common in my world. And I'm not a Sylving. I'm a human. What's a human? Well, what's a Sylving? Do you know what they look like? Sylvings are shown in odd illustrations and described as having little to no hair aside from their head. They also have a flat muzzle and small, round ears on the sides of their head. Lord Mikkel has confirmed as much from his travels into the Sylving world, so there's no doubt the description is accurate. Yeah, that's what humans look like. I see. Perhaps we simply have a different word for your kind. Maybe. It's a funny word, though. Does your kind bless items with your magic to make them work? No, that's just technology. They're made by many people who simply improved upon what we had over time. They're really advanced, sure, but there wasn't any magic involved in making them. Then how do you make these creations, if not by magic? With wires, circuit boards, programming, plastic, and electricity. It's made of many different things put together depending on the machine. Agnarr has a perplexed look on his face. Not that I blame him. I'm not sure how to explain this to someone from a world without electronics. The point is that I'm not a higher being. I'm just some normal guy with no powers, like anyone else from where I'm from. And how did your kind come to our world and grant us great powers back then? Do you know how to remove them? 3 days ago, I didn't even know your world existed, much less anything to do with great powers. I'm sorry, but this is all new to me. I apologize for jumping to conclusions. We still have so much to learn about your world, and it was difficult for me to believe that this technology was made without some sort of great power. But if that's the case, then... The wolf ladles himself another bowl, his eyes looking a little distant as he eats, like he's lost in thought. A few minutes go by, and the silence between us goes on for some time. Since I'm heading home soon, I can't think there would be any harm in striking up a more casual conversation. Hey, Agnarr? You're not carrying that big sword you had on yesterday. It's kind of hard to miss. That's my broadsword. I only wear it when I leave the village. So you're a warrior of some sort? Mercenary, to be specific. I normally take on many different jobs, everything from manual labor to hired muscle. Well, you've sure got plenty of muscle to hire. Do you get a lot of work, then? I get enough to support myself. All I need is enough to pay for the food on the table and a roof over my head. There's a notice board where people put up requests in exchange for money. That's where I usually earn my coin. You wouldn't believe some of the jobs I've gotten roped into. Like what? You'd probably find them rather dull. Lord Mikkel has told me many things about your world. My stories must dwarf in comparison. Alright. Too late. Now you got me curious. Who knows how long it'll take Mikkel to get back. Hearing some of your stories will make for a good distraction. Huh, alright, if you insist. I can tell you a story or two. He recounts a few of his adventures, how he would meet different races from far away, wearing different outfits and transporting all sorts of strange products in their wagon. One time he was hired to help move barrels in a wine cellar along with 2 others. One of them went missing halfway into the job and they couldn't find him. It turned out that he had snuck into one of the barrels in the deepest part of the cellar to take a sip without anyone noticing. He was found in a half-drained barrel, drunk as one could be, with no intention of leaving his bathtub of wine. The guy didn't get paid, of course. While he still gets work, most are wise enough to not let him near any alcohol. It's become something of an in-joke with the other mercenaries. Agnarr then tells me about the time he was hired to hunt a couple of animals called speaks for the butcher, as he was running low on meat at the time. But when he returned to the butcher, he was carrying an entire ook on his back instead, as he had lucked across it in the woods. I'm guessing specks and ooks are in this role's equivalent of hogs and moose. Ooks are rarely seen this close to the settlement, as they prefer to stay higher up in the mountains, which is why they're highly valued by nobles for their meat and fur. Agnarr still had to go back for the speaks, but the butcher was so happy about the ook that he gifted a big chunk of its meat to Agnarr. But not all employers are easy to please, as he was once hired to train a young man in swordplay in just 2 scant weeks. The clients were the boy's parents, who had hoped some physical training would help their son become more disciplined. He knew the basics, but was too impatient to learn other fundamental skills, making it difficult for Agnarr to teach him. He would go all out in every session, making wild swings and flashy attacks that left him wide open. When Agnarr told him about the mistakes and how to improve, he would just accuse the wolf of being a bad teacher. In the end, he was paid only half of the agreed-upon fee, and berated for how much Agnarr critiqued the swordplay. If I had to train someone like that, I would have given up on the second day. A week later, it came out that his family, who had enough of his behavior, had sent him off to the army. Agnarr wasn't the first to train him, and the other mentors had gotten the same results. Thankfully, Agnarr was given the rest of his payment, so it ended up well enough for him. He lets out a sigh, saying that he's not angry. He just wished he could have done more for him. I hope that guy learns not to be such a jerk to his tutors. Agnar's being way too forgiving towards him, in my opinion. He lets go of the conversation, so we just enjoy the rest of our meal before it gets cold. Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. I love you all, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye-bye!